Hi, I'm Barbara Bird. I'm the campaign coordinator for the Lincoln County Democrats. And today I'm really pleased to be bringing you a program that will be a conversation with the three candidates who are running to represent you in House District 90. But first, there are two things that I'd like to say. The first one is, if you please can do it, get an absentee ballot and vote ahead of time. The primary is on July 14th, but we have the option in Maine of voting early. And this way, you'll avoid going to the polls and being exposed to potential illness through the coronavirus. You can get an absentee ballot in several ways. One of the easiest ways is to go to our website, lincolncountydemocrats.com, and click on the button that takes you to the Secretary of State's office where you can request a ballot. Another way is to call your town office and ask them to send you an absentee ballot. The third way is that you can vote early at your town office, but call ahead of time first because you'll want to know what their hours are. Many of our towns have different hours from their usual schedules. The second thing I want to say is that if you would like to volunteer on the Lincoln County Democrats campaign, you can sign up to do that at our website also. And that again is lincolncountydemocrats.com. Now I'm going to introduce the first of the three candidates that I'm going to speak with. And this is David Levesque, who lives in Damariscotta and is running to represent House District 90. And I should say that House District 90 includes Bremen, Bristol, part of South Bristol, Damariscotta, Newcastle, and part of Noblesboro. Did I leave anything out, David?
I think you got it.
Okay.
But I'll just correct you a little bit. My office is in Damariscotta, but I live in Newcastle.
Oh, you're right, and I'm sorry. Thank you.
Well, that's okay. They're close together, so I consider it all one big
that's
area
right. The
anyways.
Twin Villages, right?
Exactly, and it's home to me now for sure.
Yes. Okay, well, I wanted to start off by asking you how you would distinguish yourself from the other two candidates who are running. The voters have three people to choose from. What is different about you from the other two candidates?
Well, first I'm going to turn that around a little bit and say, at least I hope what is similar about us is that we're all for universal health care, no matter how you call it, whether it's Medicaid for all or one-payer system. We need health care coverage for everybody. Second of all, I hope we all agree that with the Green New Deal. I also agree or think we need a Green Amendment in place. And I believe in the Sunrise movement in Maine Sunrise, and I hope we can all support that as well. And then lastly, I hope we all support pre-K through 16 free tuition education, because that's really what we need to educate and our students today and give them the opportunity they need for this world as it is today. But more specifically on point, I would add a number of things. First, I'm Maine educated. I went to college in Maine at University of Maine at Farmington, and then pursued my Master's of Business Administration from the University of Southern Maine, and then my law degree from the University of Maine School of Law. With that law degree, as you know, I'm an attorney in practice out of my office in Damariscotta. And as an attorney, I've spent a number of years resolving disputes and solving problems for clients. And through that process, I've had to deal with many different types of people and have succeeded in helping clients through over 20 years of, as I said, problem solving and dispute resolution. Lastly, I would say I'm a leader, proven leader. So over my career, I've served on boards and committees locally, statewide, and nationally. And I'll give a few examples. Locally, I was on the board of the Lincoln County Theater. I'm currently on the board of the Carpenter's Boat Shop. I'm a past president of the Lincoln County Bar Association and a past president of the Damariscotta Region Chamber of Commerce. On the statewide level, I'm currently serve as the chair of the Board of Visitors of the University of Maine at Farmington. and I'm a past president of the Maine State Bar Association as well. Nationally, I serve as the chair of a book publication board within the American Bar Association, and I've sat on the council of the American Bar Association Solo Small Firm General Practice Division. It's a mouthful, but I sat there representing solo small firm attorneys from all across the country. It was quite an experience doing that. So I really think my leadership experience sets me apart from the others, and with that leadership experience, I'd like to give a fresh look or a fresh approach up in Augusta and try to really make a difference, particularly on those 3 areas that I mentioned at the start, where I hope we all agree that we can have success on.
Great. So part of the purpose of this program is to give viewers a personal look at you. So I'm wondering if there's anything about you that people don't know that might surprise them, or that that you'd like to share.
Right. Well, I don't know if it would surprise them. I think people who know me know that I'm a hard worker, and that when I commit to something, I, try to make sure I cross that finish line for sure. And I would say is that I started working when I was 11. I was raking blueberries in Hancock County to raise money to buy my school clothes at the end of the summer. And in the off season, if you will, and maybe even during the summer, if I remember correctly, I was delivering newspapers as well. So I started working at a young age, but then I've had a variety of jobs that were all over the place. In addition to raking blueberries, I worked the blueberry fields doing some weed spraying, and then I worked in the processing plant as well. I've worked as a breakfast cook in the morning and as a dishwasher in the evening. I've done seal coating. I've worked in a restaurant, Friendly's restaurant, as a manager at one point. And I've done accounting, which is a little bit different than all those other things. I've worked at a call center for L.O. Bean as well. So I have a very wide variety of experiences, which I think helps me relate to many different types of people, whether it's the fisherman or the retiree or the chief executive officer, is that I just have a way of being able to relate with them and get to our goals. Yeah.
So you have chosen, you're from Maine, but you've chosen to live in Lincoln County. And I'm just wondering, in your mind and in your heart, what makes Lincoln County special to you? Why would you make that choice?
Well, in a way, it chose me because I was looking for employment opportunities, and I saw an employment opportunity here, and I took it. And it didn't take long to, grow my roots deeply into this community, and that was one of the reasons that I stayed. Was the community. We were barely on our street in the village of Newcastle a few weeks, and we get contacted by the neighbors saying, we're inviting you to a gathering. And why? They said, because we have new neighbors, you, on the streets. And ever since then, we've had community gatherings ever since. And it's just amazing. That just started the sense of community that we had. And then certainly we're having the boys go through the school system and connecting with the people in this community through my practice as well has just made it such a place that you could never pull me out of this now. And add on top of that the location. I mean, within an hour, I can hit all the courts I need to hit for the most part, and it's closer to home, and being where I grew up, that is, and because this is home now, and close to Portland when you can do stuff. And if I was anywhere else, I don't think I could do a lot of the leadership things that I've done, just because it would be so far away, if you will. And then lastly, I love the history of it all. And, the shipbuilding that happened here, the old homes, it all just appeals to me.
It is a beautiful place. I agree. One last question. you've had many jobs, as you described, and many experiences, but I'm wondering about the experience of running for office. How has being a candidate changed you?
I don't know if it's changed me. It's just magnified some of the skills that I've had. As you're aware, we can't knock on doors, and I was loving doing that. Getting to know folks face to face, and but picking up the phone, you really have to be a listener, and you have to listen without body language.
Yes.
And so honing in those skills, but hearing the common concerns of the community is just amazing, and it has just motivated me more to pursue this, and knowing that I can be effective if I get to Augusta. And what I'm hearing is the things that I think we need to get done. And I think having that motivation just pushes me even more to do it. It's been a great experience so far.
I'm glad to hear that.
Yeah.
That's wonderful, David. So thank you very much for appearing on the program, and I wish you the best of luck. And do you have any final words you'd like to say to the voters who are listening to this?
Well, I would just encourage everyone to vote. It's a primary, and usually we don't have a lot of folks out. It can be easy with voting by absentee and safe by absentee balloting. And I know voting has started already, so don't be late. Get it, get with everybody else who's doing it, and hopefully we can lead the country of getting the number of people out to vote like we have in the past. I think we've been a leader, and we should stay being a leader.
I agree.
And there are issues that we can lead on going forward, and I hope to be part of that leadership that takes it forward.
Great.
Thank you.
My next guest that I'm going to have a conversation with is Lydia Crafts. And Lydia comes from Newcastle, and like David Lebec and Wendy Pay, she is running to represent you in House District 90. Lydia, welcome.
Hello,
So nice
Barb.
to see you.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me. I'm pleased to join you today.
Well, we're going to just have a little conversation. I'm hoping that this is an opportunity for voters and viewers to know a little bit more about you as a person, not just as a political candidate. So my first question is about the fact that there are three of you and how you might distinguish yourself from the other two candidates. What about you is something that is different from the other two?
Yeah, that's a great question. Thank you, Barb. Well, I would like to look at our platforms, right? So while we're all running as Democrats, each of our platform priorities, or the things we're focused on in our campaign, are really shaped by who we are as candidates and who we are as citizens. So I consider myself to be a fresh, innovative voice. I'm new to politics. I'm excited to be jumping in. I've had some experience at the local level, but what I really look forward to at the state level is based on my three core campaign priorities. So I would say first, our economy. And my experience with our local economy has really been shaped by my membership as a union member. So I'm a member of the Maine Educators Association, the teachers union. I work down at the Bristol Consolidated School, and I know firsthand what it's like to negotiate contracts, right? We look at BIW's challenges right now and their labor issues with contracts, and I know we're coming into a negotiating year at the Bristol School, and I know what it's like to fight for workers. I know that we fight for healthcare rights and access to affordable healthcare. A big priority for me is universal healthcare and detaching the need for employment-based health benefits. Because I know, especially right now in this pandemic, the loss of employment has affected people's ability to access healthcare. So yeah, I think that my membership there as a union member is a big part, a striking, unique piece of who I am and why I'm running. Additionally, I have the relationships with small businesses. A perfect example is recently I walked into a local small business And I'll say this was before the pandemic, so a few months ago, right? I walked in because I was visiting. I was out canvassing, knocking on doors, and I know the owner of the business. And I stopped in and I said, what's it been like? What have the last 10 or 15 years been like for you when you think about local politics? What has your representation been like? How have our representatives really worked with you? And he said to me that I was the first candidate to ever walk through his doors to ask what he thought about and what mattered to him. And that's to no fault of anyone's, right? We live in a district with lots of people, and all of our candidates have worked really hard. But it is really about those relationships, and it's really about reaching out and hearing from folks who know firsthand what it's like. I ran a small farm out in Washington State after college. I know some of the struggles of being a small business owner, but I certainly don't know every issue. And I don't know every issue right here in our community, but I do have the confidence that I have the relationships and the communication skills to be able to connect with people, to be able to put myself out there and say, what matters to you? So economy is one of the core priorities for me. The second, I would say, is public education. Not only do I work in public schools, but I'm also a mother. And I had a challenging conversation with someone when I first started to run. A coworker, someone who I feel close to personally also, and she said, "You have young children. You can't really run. Like that doesn't, young parents don't run for office. You don't have time. You can't do that." And I said, "It's because I'm a mom that makes me want to run. That I work with children, I'm raising children, and that's where our investment needs to be for the future." And I chose a career that's based in serving children and families, but I also personally am invested in looking out for all of our children in District 90. Along public education, in that piece of my campaign, I would also add that I have a really strong focus on social justice. So I'm a clinical social worker. Our field historically is based in promoting social justice and fighting oppression. I've been able to weave that into a lot of the work that I do. I'm the civil rights advisor, for example, which is not part of my job description. It's an additional extracurricular group that I run with primarily middle schoolers at the Bristol School. And we talk about and think about really big issues. So, for example, the Black Lives Matter has come into our media coverage, but we've been talking about Black Lives Matter and race and racial inequality at the Bristol School as long as I've been working there. So I'm really inspired by the work that children and adolescents are doing to understand the world, and I think that really points our whole community in a positive direction, that the future looks very bright when we're engaging with children early on to tackle some of those big global issues. And then finally, the environment. Climate change, as we all know, is a priority for all of us in District 90. And I really believe that part of understanding and fighting climate change has to be based in science, and it has to be based in data. And I studied geology for my undergraduate degree. I have, while that hasn't translated to my professional career, which I think that happens for many of us, that our path is sometimes winding, I really understand the scientific process. And I work now I run a behavior program, and it's based in applied behavior analysis, which is about the humans, and it's about human behavior, but it's all about data. It's all about understanding how we seek out the evidence to inform our decisions. And that as we approach looking at our future from a fishing perspective, from a tourism perspective, right, that economy and environment are interwoven, that we really need to be focused on making informed decisions that are based in science. And in addition to science, we also need to understand who we're representing and what needs of our community. And we have some unique needs as a coastal community. But one of the important demographics that's less represented in the state legislature are young voices. And one of my priorities has been engaging young voters to be involved, and young people who may not even be of voting age. So I have a weekly community coming together series, and we're focusing on the Lincoln Academy Climate Action Club and talking with Riley Stevenson and hearing across the country really, but also right here, that we have youth voices speaking up for climate justice. And it really is a matter of justice. And I think that as I've run my whole campaign, that the more voices we bring to the table and the greater representation we have, the better decision making we make. And I look forward to being able to do that in Augusta. So I would just review, our economy, our public education, and our environment. Those experiences that we've had as individuals, and my experiences specifically, are what inform my campaigning.
So campaigning is new for you. You said this is your first time. How has being a candidate changed you?
Yeah, that's a great question, because it certainly does. I've learned a ton on the campaign trail, although it's different than how I first pictured. I started, prior to running for this campaign, I started a sidewalk initiative in my neighborhood, and that was my first taste of what it was like to go up and knock on doors of neighbors. And I realized really quickly that there was a lot more agreement than division, regardless of party affiliation, that as a community we have a lot of shared interests, and that gives me hope and helps keep me motivated to keep doing the work I'm doing. And that when we lift up those voices, when we, as I collected signatures for a petition for sidewalks, I realized that that has a greater impact. And that's what I've continued in this campaign this year, is it's bringing voices together. It may not be face-to-face at doors. It may now have to be over the phone. But with some innovation and some fresh ideas, I've been able to bring new social media ideas to my campaign. I have weekly featured addresses on community coming together. I have a website. So I have lots of opportunity to keep folks involved and engaged.
Great. Thanks very much, Lydia.
Thanks, Barb.
And our next guest is Wendy Pay, who lives in Bremen, also candidate for House District 90. And again, Wendy, this is just a conversation so that voters can get a more personal look at who you are and why you're running.
Wonderful.
So the first question I have for you is, there are 3 candidates.
Yeah.
Tell me how you are different from the other 2. What would distinguish you for a voter who is trying to make a decision?
Sure. One thing I've talked about is experience counts, and I think it does. I can hit the ground running. I know my way around. I was really well respected and honored by people that I worked with, both colleagues and people that were in staff. And I think that's important. But I think
you mean
that
when
I was in the legislature
before?
before.
Yeah.
Sorry. And I think though that someone on the phone said, I know you have the experience, but what makes you different? And I thought about it, and it's my leadership. I'm a leader. I have been all my professional life, 50 years, I've practiced leadership. And it's not leadership where you get on a pedestal and you say, this way. It's leadership where you ask where people are at, where you learn what's going on. So you build collaboration. Everyone brings something interesting to the table. And I have practiced that for all of those 50 years. A lot of it with Outward Bound. I started in Outward Bound when I was 18 years old, and discovered the sense of community and people coming forward and sharing ideas and practicing leadership. And it finished with being asked to run an Outward Bound school by the Outward Bound Association of Southern Africa, when Mandela was still in jail, but saying, I'm not coming out till we can be together of different colors. And that was an unbelievable opportunity for me. And so I spent a lot of time there and working to help build confidence in people. I mean, 15% of the people in 1948 took over the country, and they were all white Afrikaner speaking. They had 8 color classifications, and the darker you were, the farther down you were. It was horrible. And they knew they needed to change, and they knew that Mandela was going to come out of jail. And so they started making changes, and I got to be a part of that in a leadership role, and we were really helpful. Then Peter came into my life and brought me to Maine. And so I came here, and I was originally on the school board, but I founded Changes Consulting, which worked with schools, towns, all kinds of different companies and nonprofits especially that needed help with the change effort in where they were. And I was very good at that too. And during that time I became a Bremen selectman and ran for the legislature. So do you want me to keep going?
No, that's great. That's fine.
Time's up, Wendy.
No, no. But you mentioned that
Yeah.
you married Peter and moved to Bremen and Lincoln County. And so tell me a little bit, I mean, you're still here. So what is it about Lincoln County that's special to you?
I think I had lived all over the U.S. and Canada, and when I came to Maine, it was different. The people were, I don't know, there's not a lot of partisanship that we see. We see some going on now, but we've got bad times. So, but people were really friendly, and the fishermen were friendly, and they invited us out. And Peter was a doctor in the area, and of course highly respected as a really good person, so that helped too for me to getting introduced. But when I wanted to start a Bremen community school, the community supported me completely. And then we got going on the farming, and then I got asked to run for the legislature and immediately got pegged for leadership, and it just was all fulfilling. It hasn't changed. The same people. I've lived here, 30 years. I came from away. Came as soon as I could. So that's a lot of what holds me here. It's just plain the people. The environment is incredible, of course. We all know that. The Maine people are special.
So you've told us a little bit about your background, which
Yeah.
is very interesting. Are there, or is there, an unusual or unknown fact about you that people won't know, but that you think might tell something about you that you'd like to share?
I think, I gotta think a second. I think it is my leadership skills. I don't practice leadership in a way that other people do. I practice it almost by following. So if I've got 50 people in the crowd mad that something that we selectmen have done, I don't carry on about what we did and why I say, okay, tell me about it. What is it that we've done? What happened here? And I'll make a list and go through everybody. I want people to show respect. But it's those leadership skills that have come back over and over for me, whether it was in my consulting business. I've got a master's in organization development, if that makes any difference. It doesn't to me, but it might to some people. And so it's that kind of thing in myself that makes me pretty unique.
So what would you say that running for political office has changed you? Has it changed your view of anything? Has it changed your behavior? What effect has it had on you?
It has been amazing, because I would tell you that I wouldn't have touched politics with a 10-foot pole.
Well, go on.
Because I thought politicians went to the job to get money, get rich. I didn't see a lot of what I considered healthy in this country. I've lived in Canada 20 years, which is more socialistic, and still I got the sense that politicians weren't really there for the people. And then I got invited to run for politics, and I was like, oh, and Peter said, I think you ought to think about that. And when I got into it, I found that in Maine, it's rare to see a politician that isn't honest or isn't caring. And that was a huge surprise for me, and I fit it just so well. And it was just, I could make a difference, which I've been trying to do since I was 10 years old, I think. And so it brought me home in a way. And so when I had to drop out for financial reasons and wanted to go back, Mick was in, and I wasn't going to run against Mick Devon. And so I was waiting till he retired, and then so were some